A brand new boss trailer for SpongeBob Rehydrated has dropped, and as always, I'm here to break it all down, so let's get into it. How's it going, everyone? Blueknight here, and welcome back to another SpongeBob Rehydrated video. And yeah, you pretty much guessed it. We got our weekly scheduled trailer drop for the game. This time, it's focusing completely on the game's bosses in the main story. Not Robo Squidward or any of the multiplayer bosses, just wanted to make that clear right now. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Just like with the last few trailers, we're introduced to another recreated cutscene. This one being for Robo Sandy's introduction. And oh, I don't particularly want to start out giving a complaint, but am I the only one that feels that some of the grand entrance flair was lost from the original? I know, we don't get to see the entirety of the recreated cutscene, so I can't make a 100% claim on that just yet, but there is another issue that I have with this boss, and that's the face. This is actually our first good look at Robo Sandy's face, and I don't know. Something just don't feel right. Like, maybe it's the eyes with the added pupils, rather than them just glowing. Kinda like Drek from Ratchet & Clank. I might get used to it, but we'll just have to wait and see on that. Aside from those critiques, let's start analyzing this cutscene. First off, the arms on Robo Sandy are noticeably much shorter than in the original, and just as with all the other robots in the game, we see that there are actual bolts on Robo Sandy as opposed to the flat textured dots in the original. The same thing can sort of be said for Sandy's zipper, as it's actually embedded into the metal plates as opposed to being, what is that, pencil marks? Overall, some nice, up-to-date additions here. As for the cutscene itself, when Robo Sandy lands after that jump, she not only turns her head to look at SpongeBob, which didn't happen in the original, as she was already looking at him, but there are now bubbles as opposed to dust from the original. You know, because SpongeBob's underwater, not dry land, so it makes a bit more sense than,
hey, if we're underwater, how could there be a...
What am I saying? Now we move on to the boss battle gameplay. We can see Robo Sandy's tail is more so a pipe now, as opposed to having, you know, a tail that looks exactly like Sandy's. But honestly, I think this change is fine for the most part. Just don't rally an angry mob because of that comment, unless you've got cotton candy. Once again, the Viking helmet and or Bubble Bash icon has been swapped out for a red X to indicate when the move is needed. But when SpongeBob does use it on Robo Sandy, it happens so fast that you don't even get a chance to see what happened. Just look, here are two side-by-side frames. The one on the right was the very next frame after the one on the left. Is SpongeBob's Bubble Bash hitbox that big? I mean, look, there's not even an animation for SpongeBob hitting Robo Sandy's self-destruct button like in the original. It's simply not here. On the other hand though, when dealing damage to Robo Sandy, there's a brand new, absolutely shocking damage animation, which I really do like, and it feels better than the original, where Robo Sandy just turns red and jumps back a bit. Gotta give credit where credit is due, right? The health bar units now pop out and slowly fall out, whereas in the original they just disappear. That's it. We can see one of Robo Sandy's standard attacks. Now before moving on to the next boss, I should point out that the fish announcer now has a set of headphones compared to the original, which again is a nice addition. We got King Jellyfish, but we've seen this multiple times already, so let's keep going. The game's third boss is Prawn, and again we have a small snippet of another recreated cutscene with Mermaid Man and Prawn. And oh boy, they didn't seem to fix Mermaid Man's mouth animation here from the original. Okay, he's just yelling one word, so that doesn't necessarily represent every single line of dialogue from him in the rest of the game. While Prawn, on the other hand, they did fix this. He's pretty much unchanged from the original, but still looks better in Rehydrated. Now in terms of the boss battle stage, yeah, it's been definitely given the glow up treatment like the rest of the Murmur Lair, but there are a few other differences here. Additional lights around the arena, a new red light around the entrance to this area. These screens in the back actually show Prawn in the level as opposed to showing him up close in a seemingly black void. And when actually dealing damage to Prawn with the Bubble Bowl, he doesn't just get hit and that's just it. Now there's some sort of fire that happens, assuming that his means of attacking SpongeBob is getting damaged whenever he gets hit with the Bubble Bowl, which is another thing that helps make these bosses more satisfying to defeat, is the new animations and stuff like that. In combat, Prawn's sound waves have a more intense frequency, whereas in the original, they were a lot more spaced out. And the last thing to really point out here is Prawn's force field is actually visible this time around and disappears when left open, rather than just having snow falling constantly and just waiting for a clearing in the floor tiles to use the Bubble Bowl. I also noticed that Prawn, like all the other mini-bosses, have a shortened health meter with less spaced out health units, alongside a new character portrait. Next up we got Robo Patrick, who's the 4th boss in the game. We see that he's dizzy here, and from this angle I think he looks pretty good. When hitting Robo Patrick, he now does this flickering and turns around much faster than before. Not much else to really say about this boss from the trailer, so let's move along to the 5th boss, the Flying Dutchman. Yes, we've seen this portion many times before, but there's a new quick glimpse into the battle, showcasing one of the Dutchman's other abilities, his laser eyes. This time around, they no longer have sparks on the ground, and now puts off much more light than the original version. Again, not too much, so let's move on to the final boss of the game, SpongeBob Squarepants. We get a little bit more footage from this respective boss battle, but like last time, it's still kind of dark in the background, likely due to an outdated build, who knows. One of Robo SpongeBob's main attacks is no longer a simple fluid animation like the original. Rather, it's 3 separate actions before actually doing that said attack. Now, I'm not quite sure as to why they do that for this boss, as the only thing I can think of this accomplishing is making the attacks slightly easier to predict and avoid, but that's just me. Also, one of Robo SpongeBob's weak spots can apparently be destroyed by hitting his arm, which I feel could very easily be cheesed with that lack of collision in just that spot. And Squarepants does the exact animation as the original, minus the sparks coming out of the busted bulbs. But we finally get to see the inside of Robo SpongeBob, which is the final phase of this boss. You'll notice that the inside of a robot isn't quite as yellow as before, but much more metallic in color overall. These platforms that are scattered throughout this stage have been changed to match the ones during the first phase of this boss, but this particular shot here seems to have been changed. Either the platform was lowered, or the eyes in the background are much bigger. It's noticeable but kind of minor as well. Then there's Robo Plankton. Yeah, we've seen him before, but not during the boss battle. You'll notice the flames coming off of his floating chum bucket laser are much smaller and not as red as the original, and his attack appears to be more energy based rather than wave based, which honestly looks really nice. And that's about it for the trailer, but I do have one more image to share before I go, and that is of this absolutely beautiful screenshot of the Bikini Bottom hub world posted by Purple Lamp themselves over on their Twitter account, with all the colors, the sunlight shining through the blue surface, even being able to see the moon and the Dutchman's ship in the background here, which for those who never played the original, this was never visible from here before, and I really like this change. Yes, the movie reference is an idle animation, which was to be expected. Yes, it still takes 15 spatulas to get into the Robo Sandy boss fight, so that's unchanged. Speaking of which, I do have some criticism involving the camera angles for that boss fight. It's not only zoomed out further than normal, but it's also more of an overhead camera angle, which I'm not that much of a fan of. And final thing for this video, we get to hear the remastered version of the robot battle theme, and I honestly like it more than the original because it's more upbeat. Take a listen. Anyways guys, that's all I've really got for today's video. So as always, what do you think of this new trailer? Do you have any concerns for the game? Be sure to leave it all down in the comments section below, and also be sure to stay tuned to the channel for the latest SpongeBob Rehydrated news as it happens. Once again, thank you all so much for watching and supporting the channel. I've been Blueknight, and I'll see you guys back here next time. Goodbye!
What?